Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining the Attorney General Alliance Africa Twitter space. Today's topic is the state of cybersecurity in Africa. And as we know, October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and we felt it befitting to discuss cybersecurity and create awareness about it. And this year's theme is See Yourself in Cyber. So we want to create awareness, want people to be more involved in cybersecurity so that they are able to protect themselves. Today we'll be joined by two experts, cybersecurity experts. And our first expert is Dr. Bright Mawudo, a cybersecurity engineer and researcher and co-founder of Africa Hackon. Dr. Bright also tells us that he practices Kung Fu. I think cybercrime should be on the lookout for Dr. Bright with his Kung Fu. Our second expert is Mr. Alexander Mwasia Muteti. Mr. Muteti is a Senior Assistant Director of Public Prosecution at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, Kenya, with over 22 years of experience in prosecutions. He was admitted to the role of advocate in 2001. Mr. Muteti has received various awards for his work towards safeguarding the rule of law, including the public sector, Lawyer of the Year award by the Law Society of Kenya in 2021. So I can see Mr. Bright is on, Dr. Bright is on. Mr. Muteti will join us shortly. So I think we can kickstart off. Before we begin, remember to also follow the Attorney General Alliance Africa on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. The handle is AGA_Africa. That is AGA_Africa on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So I think, Dr. Bright, karibu.
Asante sana. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for creating the time to be here. And I think we can start off with a few questions about cybersecurity. Probably you can tell us what is cybersecurity and who is most at risk to experience cybercrime?
So I think there are two things we're talking about right now. So first of all, thank you very much for having me here. And it's great to be here again with AGA on Twitter Spaces. Most of the time, we are always running around from country to country trying to get cybersecurity out there, awareness. So to start with, cybersecurity is basically ways of being able to protect yourself just ways to be able to make sure that you're safe, you're not being compromised easily, you're able to actually safeguard everything you have on the digital space. The second question is, who is what?
Yes, the second question was, who is most at risk to experience
everybody? Cybercrime. So I think if we talk about cybercrime, we are getting specific to a particular entity, which is criminals trying to actually steal the stuff. But if we look at who's more at risk when it comes to the cybersecurity space, it's everybody. Anybody who has anybody who has an email, technically actually is susceptible to being compromised. Having an email, even there are those who are kids who don't have an email, but they have a digital lifestyle, or they have some sort of way to be able to access the internet. They all start to be at risk. Yes. So I will say every single person is at risk here. Yeah.
Okay, and I think it's also very important people to realize that everyone is at risk, not specific people. Everyone is at risk, and there's need to take precautions to protect yourself.
Yeah, there's a big misconception right now where people think that you only need to have a big bank account, you need to be a big corporate for you to be at risk when it comes to cybersecurity or cybercrime. But now, the people who actually are more at risk are social media users. Take for example, people who actually get into to have the various social media account, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, even LinkedIn. They stand a chance to be compromised easily in the digital lifestyle because they actually hold a lot of details there. The same kind of, when people compromise their account, the kind of passwords they use for that is the same thing they use everywhere. And they're actually being targeted much more these days. So, I mean, the game is changing. Everybody can be targeted, and we're all not ready for this.
Okay, and just to
Yeah.
deep a bit dive dive a bit deeper into what you've just said. In terms of
Yeah.
passwords, we are all human. We might not be able to remember all our passwords. What would your advice be in terms of creating a password and keeping it safe?
So if I may ask, if I would just tell you, go to this web. If anybody's online right now, if you go to security.org, it gives you, there's a link there which says how secure is your password. So if we do that kind of a little bit of an experiment, security.org or
Okay.
security.org, you go there, you see that you basically have, um, if you look at what's my security score, you basically can see how easily it is that your password that you type, which is normally numbers and characters added to a name or something like that,
Yeah.
it's not secure. So a secure password is actually a password that you have with spaces in them. The reason is because a space is not usually considered as a character. So it's very easy for you to actually have a stronger password when you actually when you actually use spaces in your password. Now, I don't expect everybody to be able to remember all of these passwords, right? So
Yes.
there's what you call a password manager, and a password manager basically allows you to be able to store your password securely online and have a one master password, which is a key to the vault. So just the way you have a big vault that has a master key, which actually gives you access to all others, is quite important for us to have a password manager. Storing the password in your browser, it's okay, but there's some tools that are being created these days that when hackers get access to your digital solutions, digital devices rather, phones or laptop, they will be able to actually go ahead to extract those passwords from the browser. So what are the password managers we're looking at? We have LastPass. There's LastPass. There's Bitwarden. I think AGA will be tweeting some of these details. So there's
Okay. Yeah.
LastPass.
Yeah.
There's Bitwarden. There's one password. These are things that we can actually use where you can actually have it in a way to store your password. However, I tell people having a password alone is not good enough. You need to be able to actually make sure that you have also what you call a two-step verification. So, I mean,
Okay.
two-step verification has become a common security feature which is available for every single application that you have there. If you can actually um, get to secure your application, two-step verification basically means that if I get to try to compromise you and I somehow guessed your password or got your password, you have an extra authentication that comes to your phone to enable you to get a code to authenticate that it's actually you who was trying to reset the password or trying to log
Yes.
into a particular application. Almost every social media account, almost every platform these days have two-step verification. You need to actually enable it. So something like, I take Gmail for example. If you go to Gmail and you go to the settings for Gmail, the two-step verification is there. You need to activate it.
Yes.
However, there's something we call backup code. Backup code is actually available right below the two-step verification, which is 10
Yeah.
sets of code for you to download in case somehow you lost your password, you lost
Yes.
your mobile device, you will still be able to use that backup code you saved somewhere to be able to get back into your account. So it's available for almost every social media. We need to just make sure we activate them. So if you look at all of this conversation, it's about digital lifestyle. This
Yeah.
cybersecurity awareness month, we need to just get awareness out and make sure that we are actually doing the bare minimum to keep ourselves safe with very simple security procedures that we have every single day.
Okay. Okay. That's very good. And I think that's exactly what we're doing here to try and create awareness. And as you've mentioned, it's important people to have the two-factor authentication step. so that they're able to protect themselves. The next question was, in your opinion, what do you think causes the increase in cybersecurity breaches, especially in the African continent?
Yeah. Oh man, I think I mean looking back at where we came from, we are
Yeah,
doing way better than before. When I started running Africa Hackon, I remember the first few times we tried to show how hackers actually work because that's what we do. At the conference, we've been doing that for about 10 years, almost 9, 10 years now. And everybody's like, wow, this is how, I mean, is it real? Is this how, um, like, this is how easily it is to actually compromise people. And that was then. And it was easy to be able to compromise people at the time. Now we are getting to a stage where I think a little bit more. I mean, there are people who are taking it more seriously. Governments are trying to bring up laws and trying to bring in how do you call it? They're bringing in policies, and this compliance
yeah,
being taken and advocacy as well. So I think we
yes,
are better off right now. However, we still have a
yeah,
very, very, very long way to go. The entire world actually, but looking at Africa, we have a long way to go because we still have a lot of people who just read details, but they don't get to implement. So the implementations of things will be the key aspect of being able to make sure that everything that we're trying to document or policies and strategies that we're documenting every day is actually been is being actualized in the various institutions for us to reduce our threat attack surface. So yeah, we are better off now, but still we have a long way to go. I'll just say that, yeah.
okay, okay. So there, there is a lot of work that still needs to be done. I think with such discussions, we are headed in the right direction. Uh,
Yes,
when we talk about cyber threats,
yes.
what are the types of cyber threats that we have or someone can experience when they're online?
Uh, so there, I mean, excuse me, there are too many cyber threats that are out there, and I, sorry, I think if we want to go into the nitty-gritties of each and every one of them, we will never finish. But I'll mention a few and see how we can actually
Yes,
get to talk
yes,
about them. So I'll talk about a very non-common type that actually gets to happen a lot. I'll call it man in the middle attack. Man in the middle attack is basically somebody intercepting or being a person in the middle who gets to intercept traffic between you and somebody else. I'll give a typical example. Let's call it Company A. Company A is in Kenya. They deal with hospitality in the
yeah,
business, and they basically get to talking to you, who is in the UK, coming to visit Kenya. Now, if somebody actually hacks your email server or your email systems, and I've been seeing this happening a lot in Kenya right now and a few other countries, when they intercept that traffic, they get to see who is communicating to the client, right?
okay,
So the client is you in UK or wherever it is, and let's say you're buying something. So they know there's accounts called sales, the payables. They know that the name of the people who are actually controlling this email. So what is happening right now with man in the middle attack on an email level is they tell you they register another domain which looks just like yours, right? So the email is John James at AGA Africa, at agahafrica.com or
yeah,
.co.ke. You register another one at agaafrica.co.tk. This .tk, I've said it a number of times. How recently that .tk has become a free domain that a lot of people have been using. I have been using .dot.tk since I was in high
okay,
school. This is almost 15 years ago. So you can actually get a free domain and register. So you can
yeah,
imagine
yeah,
there's no
yeah,
trace to it. There's no trace to it. You basically have free availability to be able to get access to that. Now people register that, so they start sending messages on your behalf. And the most common one we have been seeing is that they tell the client, who is you in the UK, that we have changed our bank account. So please pay to this new bank account details. A lot of people have been losing money right in
Yes.
Kenya just because of that. So that's the typical man in the middle attack. But man in the middle attack can also happen on a network. We go to coffee shops, we go to places, and the first thing we ask for is what? Wi-Fi. Get on the Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
you're trying to browse. If you don't have a good security mechanism on your laptop, like a VPN or something like that, anybody who's on that network basically can scan the network, see the websites you go into, see what you're doing, and even force you to go to the different version of that website. So if every day your website is banka.com, they will send you to banka.com, a duplicate of that, looking similar, and that way you're going to be putting your password because they can see you're going to that website quite often in the past 2 minutes or something. So those are the two types of man in the middle attack we have been seeing. Another one is we're looking at distributed denial of service. If you and I want to fight right now in a room, there's a very high chance either I'll beat you or you beat me. if you fight it fair and square. But for the
Yeah.
fact that I know martial arts, there's a very high chance I'll beat you.
Chances are, yes.
The chances are there. But if you see this, but if you're to call in your boys, you've called in a few other people, even if there are people who are not as stronger, as strong as you, or you're even stronger than them, many of you try to fight me, you will actually be able to beat me down. Why?
Yes.
Because there are different kinds of attacks that are hitting me from everywhere, and I will not be able to actually sustain all of that pressure. We call that a distributed denial of service, where people send so much traffic to your systems or your network or your IP addresses and the likes till it shuts down. That has been a common attack. I know there are various mitigation strategies out there, so many tools that can help you to stop them. So I see the fact that I mean there's many tools, but it's another kind of attack that are there. We have mobile phones being attacked these days. We have vehicle
Yeah.
hacking in IoT. You'll be shocked. There's a search engine in Kenya, not in the world, called Shodan. Shodan allows to be able to basically search for Internet of Things or IoT devices that we see these days, and you basically can actually how do you call it search for industrial control systems, power grids. You can see water sprinklers, people's cameras, baby monitors that have not been secured. Now look, I've seen some of them, I've looked at some of them, I've tried to explore some of them. ERPs are online. When you get to use such things, you can actually there's a time we saw somebody's house, and this person's house is in Karen. We actually
Yeah.
have we had access to, this is no password to that whole platform. You can put off his lights,
Okay.
his water sprinkler. You can put on any light on and off. You can close his gates. You can increase the volume of music in his house remotely from our phone. Can you
Wow.
imagine how freaky that would be? And this is happening in Kenya. So
Extremely.
yeah, I don't want people to start thinking these are only things that we hear from we see in the movies, and the likes. So that's another kind of thing. IoT devices are becoming commonly getting compromised. Another one is basically password attacks. People getting access to your passwords. Um, and then we have malwares. A lot of malwares are hitting a lot of companies right now. Look at ransomware being the most common. So many people don't have bare minimum anti-malware solutions or whatever endpoint detection and response
Protection.
solutions
Yeah.
or protection on the systems, on the servers, on their laptops and the like. So it's easy to actually compromise one of them. And when you compromise one, it basically spreads through the network because it's attacking a machine and it's been coded in a way that that particular machine is a trusted device on the network. So anyone can basically it affects everybody. The cost of that, and that's why this is where people need to listen very carefully. Organizations don't like to spend when it comes to cybersecurity because they don't see the tangible outcome of it. If a ransomware
True.
hits you right now, you will basically be crippled. You basically cannot have access to all your documents. You can't have access to your files that you've had for years. There's a company that had files from 1961 and they started digitizing them. But however, all the other documents have been thrown away from 1961 until now. Guess what? They don't have access to those files anymore. So it's
Wow.
really critical for us to be able to start having conversations from the top, from the management level. People need to understand the essence of how exactly we can actually, how do you call it, It's how we can protect ourselves. Last but not the least, one of the most common, I think even you must have experienced it very recently, we call it social engineering attacks. Social
Yes,
engineering
yes,
is basically hacking the human brain. How can I convince you to basically give me what I want by asking me the right questions to give me the right answer? I'll give a very common one for those who are listening from Kenya. There's a very the common one that is happening from Kenya, and they basically some guys from I don't know where call you and say, "Hey, your account has been registered twice on M-Pesa. How about we help you to deregister that mobile banking? No, not mobile banking, M-Pesa account. Is your name Bright Gamely? Yes." I'm like, "Yes." Is your ID number this? I'm like, well, yes. Um, how about what was the last transaction? You know, the normal common questions that M-Pesa or Safaricom customer care will actually ask you because I'm on Safaricom, right? So
yes, yes, they will.
they try to mimic the same procedure because they've mastered them. And they said, okay, there's another number registered under the name Rahesh Patel, you know. So obviously you know that is very completely different from your tribe. You basically say,
Yes,
oh, no, 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 no. So they tell you, oh, we're about to send a code to you. So they actually try to reset your M-Pesa pin and they make a push to your phone number. If you ever give them that pin, they tell you, oh, can you read out the number that has just come to your phone? If you actually open that and give them that particular pin, you'll be compromised. Your entire M-Pesa will be withdrawn, and they basically can
yes,
use that as a way, as an attack vector into your bank account and mobile banking systems as well, because you probably have used the same pin for your mobile banking. So we need to basically just be careful on the kind of ways we give out details, and these are some of the bare minimum of cyber threats that are out there. I could go on for the next two
okay.
hours.
Thank you very much for that. And I think these are things we are experiencing nowadays, as even online on
Yeah,
the social media platforms. Somebody tells you, "I would like to I need you to assist me to recover my account," when in essence, they've actually requested for a recovery code for your account. And when you
yeah,
send it, again, you're compromised. And even businesses are losing money when they're compromised. So it actually affects everyone, businesses, individuals. And that actually leads to my next question: the kind of
yeah,
impact that these threats create in terms of an individual losing money. Probably that's the money they needed to pay rent, to buy food, or whatever it is they need for sustainability. Businesses losing income. Probably some of them even have to close down. In terms of the impact, what do you think the impact has been, both at an individual level and also even at a corporate level, not only in Kenya but also around the continent?
man. Is I'll try to keep that short and sweet. People have been suffering. People have been fired at the board level from
Yes.
cyber attacks.
Okay.
Cybersecurity right now, if you go to, I'll talk about the world at large, in the United States especially. Cyber security is now a board conversation. You cannot treat it as a normal everyday conversation. You cannot treat it as a by the way. It's as
Yes.
important as your finance report. So cybersecurity is at a board level. So I don't know why. I mean, I'm part of a few boards in Kenya and around the world. And I'm wondering why there are not many more of me who are in Kenya who are being added to the board of directors for companies because of cybersecurity issues. Not because they're coming to give
Okay.
a strategic direction, but just to be able to certify some of the details of things that have been found. It is a board
Yes.
conversation. It's about time we in Africa start to realize that some of these things have to be discussed from the top because it's really important. Businesses have shut down. I know a factory that has shut down. I know an oil company that has shut down before because of a cyber attack. The earlier we start to identify this and take it seriously, that it's a matter of life and death. You're not going to actually get to know the length and breadth of it. Let me take a typical example. I'm talking about Kenya a lot because this is where I am and I see a lot of things
Yes.
happening.
Yes. Yes.
Almost everybody has a loan app. almost everybody has a betting now. The betting companies that are here right now are many, right? Everybody has they have a float where they actually put an
Yes,
amount of money, which could be $5,000, $10,000, because of the number of people who are betting, who are borrowing every single day, because that's how they make
yeah,
money.
yes,
Let me tell you something. There's a syndicate or group of people in Kenya who technically target such companies and they go and drain the entire wallets. Why?
wow,
Because of basic cybersecurity gaps that have not that are there, and they've not been able to address them. So we need to start taking this as a very serious issue and knowing the fact that you are going to be targeted. There are so many ways to be able to compromise your account, so many ways to be able to compromise a network, so many ways to compromise an application, and it only takes a hacker one single loophole that they find. And it's getting
that is
easier.
it.
Let me tell you, it's getting so easy because, man, the tools are there. They're all open source. As I talk
Yeah,
to you right now, I'm scanning the website and I'm seeing vulnerabilities. By the time you finish your Twitter spaces, I might be able to write a report for them. Why? Because it's now taking me 10 seconds to be able to break in to this particular organization because of a simple flag they have not put on their website. Is that it's getting that serious?
wow,
Yeah.
that is very worrying. Especially such businesses who have, like you've mentioned, big wallets. They're interacting with money every single day, and
Yeah.
to some extent, the money is not theirs. Yeah, like I could deposit money in
It's
my
not.
wallet for a
Yeah,
sports
yeah,
betting
yeah.
company, and the following day, there's nothing.
It could not be theirs, or possibly it could be money somebody has invested in them through like an angel investor. Maybe just to
Yes,
close that particular topic, there are very few things that organizations need to do before they even take actions or whatever it is, because people like to be reactive when it comes to cybersecurity. There's something we call threat modeling. And threat modeling is a conversation I like to discuss with a lot of organizations when I talk to them, especially senior managers, and I think a lot of people who are in this Twitter spaces right now can take back.
yeah,
Threat modeling needs you to be able to let you get to define some of the things that you need to look at before you even know what mitigation strategies you put together. So the first step, you need to define what is security requirements. A lot of people don't even know what they don't know or what they don't need. So defining the security requirements for your organization or for your application or whatever you have needs to be there. Defining, I mean defining the nitty-gritties of it. You need to create an application diagram, exactly the details of what it is that you're trying to create and the processes that
yeah,
are going to take from start to finish. You need to know what are the ways you'll be identifying this threat, what assets of greatest risk. Look at an organization right now. If I go to a bank, the CFO's laptop might be the asset of greatest risk. Another company, another bank will tell you the database is the asset of greatest risk. Another person will
yeah,
tell you, the front desk lady is an asset of greatest risk. Because let me tell you something, I broke into a bank before because the front desk lady led me right
yeah,
into the boardroom. I planted a device into the, how to call it, telephone, IP phone thing, and I got access to
yes,
the
yes.
network. And for the whole weekend, we don't have to sit there to scan the network and hack it from home. Nice and easy. So creating a security requirement, creating an application diagram, identifying the threat, and then you have to find ways of how you're going to be mitigating this threat. And you have to validate that these threats have been mitigated by putting in the right strategy in place. Without kind of threat modeling, you are fighting a losing battle because you don't know where to look. There are too many there are too many bullets that are going to come at you. You don't know when the bullets will fire. You don't know when you're going to get hit. Where do you put a shield? Yeah.
Okay, that sounded a bit scary, knowing that people, especially businesses, are not taking it that seriously. But I
Yeah.
think it's important to create that awareness. And as you've said, we need more people at the board level taking cybersecurity more seriously. The
Yes.
challenge could be they're not seeing any monetary value right now until
That's true.
the threat has hit. So we hope things
Yeah.
will change, and we hope such forums will lead to that. And
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah.
people hacking into businesses or personal accounts, what kind of reprieve do the victims have? Do we have laws in place to protect them? Are they sufficient? Do we need to do more in terms of legislation to be able to prevent or at least make sure those who execute the threats face the law?
I wish ODPP representative was here to answer that question. But anyway, there are laws right now. And if I tell people, if you think you're going to get away with a cyber crime, you're lying to yourself. You're going to be caught someday. And I feel if you're not get caught by the system, nature will catch you.
Yeah.
It's the same way. Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Do you have a lock on your door at home?
Yes, I do. Maybe even
Uh,
three.
the- Maybe three. Do your neighbors have a gate?
Yes, yes.
Why do you think they have it?
To make sure whoever is not supposed to be in will not get in.
When do you think this person is going to come?
When do I think?
When do you think this person who is not supposed to be in going to come to you?
I have no idea. They can come
Good
at
question.
any time.
That. Thank you. That's the answer I was looking for. So we can
Yes,
never ever be sure. That's why we need to put the security measures before they happen. But if the person gets to come and then we have a security measure such as a panic button and the like, we
yes,
know or a camera, they will be prosecuted by the law because they actually broke in and there's evidence. So we need to make sure that we actually understand the ways of digital forensic evidence collection, right?
yes,
Um,
yes.
uh, but the thing is, we for those to actually happen, we need to make sure that we can basically, um, what's the word? The laws that are there, but the law will only work with what it can actually find. So there are various steps when it comes to digital forensics or even evidence collection. There's identification to identify the purpose of the investigation, identify the
Yeah,
resources that are required, there's preservation, getting to analyze the data that you find, there's documentation before the presentation when it comes to court of law. Without those things, you don't have a strong case to be able to prosecute somebody. Just the way you cannot tell if this thief was a thief who came to steal your stuff in your house if you don't have a camera, right? So
yes.
we do have the law. Right now, data protection, the Office of the Data Protection right now is very active in telling people if you're actually hosting data of critical data of somebody, you need to register those details and be able to um, actually declare those and how what you're doing to be able to protect them. So I think we're getting somewhere. I think to take some time before the actual realization of that comes to play. So yeah, the
Okay.
law is there, and digital, the DCI and the likes have all the tools. I mean, there are various
At their
entities or part of the
disposal.
government, yeah, who can actually extract such a for good information.
Okay, okay. And we're still waiting for, we still have, Mr. Muteti will still join us. So as soon as he joins us, we'll be able to ask him some of these questions from the perspective of the ODPP office.
Okay.
So AGA Africa does a lot in terms of trying to create awareness uh, of transnational crimes, doing trainings and the likes. What are some of the things you've partnered with? You've partnered in with AGA Africa in terms of
Yeah.
creating awareness for cybersecurity uh, in the continent, in
Yeah.
Kenya, and have you seen a change after such activities have taken place?
Oh man, I have to tell you, it's been a blessing when ever since I started engaging AGA Africa.
Yes.
That's been like 4 5 years now, I think. I'm not too sure. Um, it's been a while, and we've traveled across the continent, trying to talk to law enforcement, lawyers, judges, magistrates. We've done if I list down the number of trainings that I've done with AGA
Yeah.
across East Africa, West Africa, it's been amazing. And the experience has always been the same. I think we all have a common problem, and it runs across, and that's why I like when AGA organizes these workshops, when people come from various places and come to share the same ideas. You realize we all have the same problems. We just needed to find a common ground to be able to solve
Yes.
them. So it's been really great. The reception has been really good. Every time I think we finish one session, they said, "Hey, can you come back?" So next few months, we're on the next flight out. Next event has been organized. And the changes that are coming, the new legislative aspect of things that are coming out of those engagements are really good. If for those who are listening right now, if you don't have access to the AGA reports, please subscribe to it. Go to AGA Africa website. You should be able to subscribe, I believe. I naturally get them all the time, where you can see the kind of work that is being done when it comes to fighting cybercrime, and cybersecurity has become is reaching the right people, you know.
Yes.
Because imagine trying to tell a judge this is what exactly happens in the deep web. He's like, what? The deep web? What? Okay, there's deep web, there's dark web. Okay, this is what is evidence collection when it comes to electronic evidence, you know. And we get to discuss in depth. And the beauty of what I like doing with AGA is I like to do live demonstration. I think that has come a long way, that they get to see exactly what is happening in the real world. So when they're dealing with it in reality, it's not a hearsay. So yeah, I would encourage
Yes.
people to follow AGA Africa on all social media and also the website, and subscribe to these reports, because it really goes a very, very long way. Yeah.
Okay. So definitely AGA is doing a lot of good work within the
Yeah.
continent, and they've done a lot of work with you in terms of creating awareness in the cybersecurity space, which is good. Remember to follow AGA Africa on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram at AGA_Africa. That is AGA_Africa. So now we are joined by Duncan Ondimu, Senior Principal Prosecution Counsel. Karibu sana. Welcome, Duncan.
Thank you, and we apologize for the delay in joining in. My colleague Mtumteti was having challenges on the internet. Yeah.
No problem, no problem. Yeah, we are happy you have been able to join us. Probably you can introduce yourself, tell us what you do. Yes, with the office.
Okay. As you've heard, my name is Duncan Ondimu. I'm a Senior Principal Prosecution Counsel. I work at the ODPP. At the moment, I'm stationed in Narok County, but for long I had been in Nairobi for quite a while. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for creating the time and joining us. And I think you've just joined at the right time. We had touched on legislation and policies that are in place to either prosecute the people who execute cyber threats, and also how people can get reprieve if they become victims. Probably you can touch a bit on that.
Okay, maybe looking at there are several legislative. We don't have one legislation which captures everything to do with cybercrime and cyber security. But however, we have several acts of parliament that touches bits and bits of here and there. But maybe to begin with, before we even look at the various sections of the law, we need to understand that from our constitution, Article 260 of the Constitution, it defines a document. It starts from definition of a document. So in effect, the Constitution contemplates both physical and a virtual environment that we now operate in. Then the act that most of us are well aware of is the Kenya Information and Communication Act. Kenya Information and Communication Act. Then you do have the Computer Misuse and Cybercrime Act. We have the recent Data Protection Act. Then we also have the Prevention of Terrorism Act. There's an aspect of the Prevention of Terrorism Act that briefly touches on communication and data. which goes long way, which goes into touches a bit on cybersecurity and the rest. Then also there are other areas that they are not necessarily laws, but give guidance. We have the National ICT Policy Framework. Then you have the various institutional frameworks. So, like for example, the response mechanism that has been put in place by the government to deal in case of any cyber attack or anything, the national response mechanism. Those are some of the legal provisions. Then also we need to look at briefly the international aspects, things to do with the Budapest Convention and the other instruments that have been signed, but that have been assented to by the Republic of Kenya, that also touch on things to do with the cybersecurity. Yeah.
Okay, and in terms of where we are right now and where we could be, what kind of steps do you think not only Kenya, but even the continent Africa, what are the steps you think we should be taking towards making sure we improve the policies we already have so that we're better able to protect, prosecute, and also give reprieve to victims of cyber threats?
One of the things is that we need first to look at in our legislation, what would we look at as the form of what are the challenges that are faced by various practitioners. For example, we have the question of admissibility of evidence. If, for example, you've collected something online, how do we ensure that this data is secured? Most of these service providers that we use here, maybe email or the various social media platforms, they're not ideally based in the country. So it brings in challenges to do with the MLA processes. And that process takes ages, though there are quite a number of challenges. That's being one of them. Maybe the other challenges that I would mention is the volatile nature of the data that we are dealing with. But the biggest, as prosecutors, the biggest challenge we can say is the fact that the admissibility. Because courts in Kenya have already looked at the admissibility. There's a very good judgment by Justice Professor Ngugi when he was in Kiambu on admissibility. Then also we face challenges to do with what we prosecutors usually insist on, the chain of custody. From the time this data is seized, who has had access to it from that time? How do we ensure that that was the format which the data was seized? And the time the person reports to the police until the time the investigations are done, how was this data preserved? Yeah.
Okay.
I hope
that is good. I think, like I had mentioned earlier, there's still room for improvement, and such avenues as this Twitter space push for creating awareness where we are able to highlight some of the things that people need to be careful of. And organizations like AGA Africa organizing trainings, training judges, lawyers, police officers on how to look at some of these things.
Yeah.
There's a question I had asked Bright earlier, and I think I would also want you to give your insight on it. And this was the types of cyber threats that we have, especially here in Kenya and around the continent. What is your contribution in terms of the threats that you have come across in your line of work?
Okay, some of the threats in most of us have come, especially the ones in most of the urban areas. It's one of them is cyber fraud, which basically affects most of these platforms that conduct e-commerce. For example, Jumia. Then there's the issue of the mobile banking application and payment platforms. Then also stuff to do with publication of false information, hacking of government websites, the phishing, then cyberbullying. But one of the most dangerous one, cyber terrorism. Though most people it may not be all that pronounced, but there is a case that's ongoing at the moment that basically touches on cyber terrorism, where somebody was using the cyber for purposes of conducting recruiting for terrorism activities. This really, those are some of the need, and they're quite dangerous. Though most Kenyans have experienced the issue of the banking, the e-commerce website, and the banking sector, the fintech.
Okay, and do you have any examples of where there was such a case and the victims were able to be compensated when somebody has been prosecuted?
If I think you must have, if anyone who is in the banking sector will tell you there's a place called Mulot. Most of the complainants have been able to get to recover their money, because
Okay.
if you realize there are all these crimes that are being committed, and you'd realize that there's I don't know whether you've heard of a Mulot town. It's a very remote area in Narok. Until now, the Ministry of ICT has decided to put up an IT center in that village,
Okay.
because several people have been arrested, but still the same area is being responsible for that.
Okay. Okay. So at least there is hope of people being either compensated or some reprieve for them
Yes.
with the current laws, and we are hoping that we'll be able to move forward in terms of improving the laws and the legislations that we currently have.
Yes. Maybe before you move to another area, at the
Yes.
moment we are having serious discussions on one thing that's emerging on cybersecurity and cyber and data that's we had not been able to address it. It's on artificial
Okay.
intelligence. As prosecutors, how are we going to deal with this? Because at the moment, there's no single legislation that is providing for artificial intelligence. So how do we tackle this? How do we ensure that all these things that are being done by machine, if it affects somebody's rights, if there's criminal responsibility or criminal sanctions have arisen, who do we attach the criminal responsibility to, while this activity maybe probably are being carried out by machines? So it's an area which it's worth looking at on AI
True.
and
Yes.
criminal aspects of AI. Yeah.
Dr. Bright, I don't know whether you would like to comment on that, on AI, artificial intelligence.
I mean, Duncan nailed it right there. I mean, there's a time when a car hit a black person in the States when they're doing when they're training it to actually learn how to self-drive, a self-driving car. And the
Yes.
question was asked, why did it hit that person? And the answer was because it was not trained to be able to identify somebody of that color. So now you try to find,
Wow.
when you go to court, do you blame the car or do you blame the car maker? Because the car maker will tell you it was the car that the code has been written. It's supposed to automatically learn to see an object, a human being.
Yes.
But it was not seeing
Yes.
that human being as the kind of that person as a human being, right? So this is going to become an area of contention, and we're seeing a lot of AI and machine learning algorithms coming to do things. So yeah, in a court of law, that's going to become very difficult. However, I think we even have a lot of issues trying to deal with the current basics of law. I'll ask a question to this entire to all listeners and even to you. If you've been cyber bullied and you go to Kileleshwa police station, what are you going to tell them?
It's a
You
very
go
good
there.
question.
Yeah. So you look at it there, there are very few Duncans who are out there who understand this problem and understand the fact that people need to understand what is evidence collection. And I mentioned that just before he actually came in. The identification, preservation, analysis, documentation, and presentation of those evidence of digital forensic evidence before it really gets to the courts of law. So a lot of education is needed, a lot of awareness is needed for even, that's what I think every time we work with AGA, we're trying to take some of these issues and details to law enforcement agencies that this is what you're supposed to do. So it's a growing area before even artificial intelligence comes in later. We still have a lot of basics to deal with. Thank you.
Okay. Even as we deal with the basics, I can hear that we also need legislation when it comes to artificial intelligence, because otherwise that's a big loophole where we might not be able to prosecute or know how to handle it.
Yeah.
I would like to go back to Duncan, and the question I have is, what tools do you think law enforcement agencies, law enforcement departments need to be able to identify and prevent cybercrime?
I think the first, as the doctor has mentioned, the first thing we need to do is first train, create awareness on cybercrime, create awareness on electronic crimes that are being committed, create awareness on the risk and the also vulnerabilities that we expose. So what as what you've asked, if you can repeat it again, but I went into too much of the awareness bit.
No worries. Law enforcement agencies, what do they need to identify and prevent cybercrime?
At the moment, we have some well-trained officers, but they're not enough. We can't say they're enough because they're only in Nairobi. That's at the Anti-Terrorism Police Unit and at the CID headquarters. There isn't established forensic laboratory. It has very, very experienced officers, but these are not really enough. So what we need for our law enforcement is spread this knowledge that these few officers in Nairobi have. Because when you compare those officers with our officers, what we would say, qua ground, it's totally different. So if this training can be sent to the officer, the person who is at the OB, like you've asked a question, you've gone to Kilelesho, you are talking about cyberbullying. This officer himself is wondering,
What is
your Twitter, you're
cyberbullying?
talking about. You even said that you are cyberbullied on a Twitter space. So he doesn't even have an idea what is Twitter or anything. So we need to now spread this knowledge so that it will enable our officers to be able to identify the threats, to be able to identify even when the crime has been committed. How do we collect this evidence? How do we preserve this evidence? How do we contact the service providers, for example? Because most of these service providers, the owners are not within the country. So who do we contact, for example, for the MLA processes? Those are some of the things that the office is looking at to spread this knowledge, because that's the intention of the DPP in establishing the Prosecutor Institute, because it's not only going to serve prosecutors themselves, but the agencies that the prosecution service works with. Because it's pointless for me to understand all these cybercrime issues, and the officers I'm dealing with have no idea what I'm talking about. So that's the intention of ensuring that we all are on the same page in terms of identifying these challenges. So it's the capacity building is the most important to our law enforcement, for them to be able to identify these threats and constant engagement with them. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Dr. Bright, I don't know whether you have anything to add on what these agencies might need.
Oh, I think Duncan has covered it pretty well. There's nothing else to add. Thank you.
Okay. And we've been joined by Mr. Gitonga Muranga, who's a senior principal prosecution counsel. Karibu sana, Mr. Muranga.
Thank you so much for joining me. Sorry for for allowing me to join you. Sorry.
Karibu sana. We are happy that you're here. Thank you for joining us. And probably I can just throw a question to you. I've also seen this question on the chats. In terms of protecting myself as an individual, what would you say are some of the steps I can take to protect myself from cybercrime?
Okay. Thank you for that question. I was actually having a challenge joining this cyberspace because of one of the security features I had put on my phone, which is often basically not allowing the microphone to be accessed by other apps. I guess that could be one of the things. But in this aspect, I can't say I'm an expert in it. This is something probably Daktari will be better placed to speak on. But I do know in terms of there is a lot of information that we're trying to spread out there in terms of protecting children from harmful exposure. Like for instance, where parents are able to put passwords that protect children from accessing sites or even from having conversations with strangers, because you do know you could be having, like for instance, an application for an innocent game like chess, and over the application, the players can be able to have a conversation, and obviously these are all vulnerable areas in which children can also be exposed. And also the applications that they have on their phones, there is the advertisement that come over those applications and probably deviate you to another site. I think those are all aspects of danger that parents should be made aware of. I do know that, for instance, the government and the enforcement agencies have taken steps to ensure that they protect children against exploitations on the internet, where we have children being taken photos and they are exposed online through pornographic sites and others. And we have the Criminal Investigation Agency having a specialized unit that deals with these aspects, basically to protect children. And I know at the office, we've also come up with a policy that will ensure that we are able to take the aspect of children and their protection against cyber security risks, so that we put it at the forefront, as children are very vulnerable. But if you allow me, I want to just add something that maybe Duncan may have spoken on or not.
No problem.
The aspect of the National Computer and Cybercrimes Coordination Committee. It's called NC4. NC4 is a committee that is a multi-agency committee established under the Section 4 of the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act. Basically, this committee is a multi-agency approach towards dealing with issues of cybersecurity. If Daktari mentioned, you will note that cybersecurity goes beyond cybercrime, and therefore the whole aspect of the the National Computer and Cybercrimes Coordination Committee is to look at the issue from the cybersecurity aspect and not just on a cybercrime aspect, because you remember we have also key installations that need to be protected, and we are going to a situation where we are having our systems very digitalized, and global warfare in the future will no longer be an issue of even using nuclear weapons. It will be an issue of deploying, for instance, malware that paralyzes countries and are unable to make them function effectively. So, to be able to address many of the challenges that may occur, the government launched the National Cybersecurity Strategy 2022-2027. If you're able to go to the nc4.go.ke, you will be able to find that National Cybersecurity Strategy. That strategy tells you how the country intends to deal with issues to do with cybersecurity in the country. And that will be your starting point. That is my contribution.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
I have to agree. Yeah, I have to agree with him. The NC4, I mean, if I don't know if people have read the document, but it's so detailed. I mean, I've seen NC3 happen, NC4 has happened right now. It's a very detailed document, and I think we need to be able to basically get a hold of it, and read it, and be able to see how different, even private sector should be able to see how they can contribute to the to actually make this to become a reality. So yeah, it's a really, really detailed document.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I would just like to check the chat and see whether we have any questions for the panelists. I think we've covered a lot, and even the previous questions that have been asked during the week, I think have been answered. We have Eneda who asks, how do I protect myself when using an open Wi-Fi, or is this completely a no-no? I think Dr. Bright, you can assist on that question.
Oh, if what again? I did not.
The question
If
was, how do I protect myself when I'm on an open Wi-Fi, or should I never join an open Wi-Fi?
So I actually answered that question earlier on. If you have a VPN, be it ExpressVPN or any other, you're safer to be able to browse on that Wi-Fi, on that open Wi-Fi. However, if it's something that is really sensitive and you want to do, I will suggest that you hotspot your phone to be able to use it I mean, you hotspot by tethering and use that to be able to do the transaction. But otherwise, it's best if you have a VPN.
Okay. Somebody has just asked me, what is a VPN?
Oh yeah, great. So a VPN is a virtual private network, basically a software that you install in your phone or you install on your laptop to enable you to securely connect to websites through channels. So basically, take it to be like you want to get it from point A to point B. If you go through, if you're in Kenya and you want to go from, I don't know if that person is in Kenya, but if you use the main road, you might get to the
Yes.
airport very late if you're coming from Westlands. If you use the expressway, you pay extra, but you get there faster and securely, knowing there's nobody who's going to stop you or be able to actually attack you that easily. That's just
Yes,
basically
yes,
how
yes.
it is. You're paying extra for you to go through a secure channel to be able to access the services that you want to access, and knowing that nobody will be able to actually start sniffing through your conversation or your traffic to see what you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I think that one is okay. Let me check whether we have another question. Somebody has commented, we also have just signed a cybersecurity strategy. I think that has been mentioned also. Probably one last question, and this is from my end in terms of, and somebody here, Lucas, has touched on it. The government has a lot of data, whether it's people's names, their ID numbers, there's even the phone numbers. What are some of the ways, if any one of the panelists knows, that the government uses to protect all this data that they have for the citizen?
If I may just take that, if any of my panelists can also add on to that later. I don't
Yes.
think there's any one solution that fits all. If you're thinking about cybersecurity or cyber resilience, and you think there's one method or one tool that's going to solve all the problems, that's a lie. So don't ever think that there's one solution that can solve all the problems. The government is doing their best to be able to protect the data, I believe. And they also have, and looking at all these kind of divisions that are out there with expertise, both local and international, they are contributing to be able to make the data safe. It will take some time. Even if you have the best systems, even the most protected systems in the world get to be penetrated. So there's never 100% security, and I don't think we should ever think or believe that we can secure all national data easily.
Okay.
It should take time. Yeah.
Duncan, do you have anything to add on that? Or Mr.
Um,
Moranga?
I think the key thing that, as you've pointed out, what it is doing on training is key. We cannot have, as Dr. has mentioned, there's no one solution. But to me, I look at it from the angle of creating an awareness, building capacity. It will really, really help a lot in dealing with the cybercrime. And also, what you'd realize that from the Data Protection Act, organizations are required to appoint, I don't know, they're called data officers or something. This would assist in ensuring that the data the government has is key. Is key. For example, right now at ODPP, we are in the process of automating everything from the decision to charge. Everything will be online based.
Okay.
Yeah, online based, there will be less and less paper, So this calls in for us to ensure that this data that we are collecting, because data is the biggest resource that we are going to have, because data enables us to control the market. It controls the market, because if this data, for example, if somebody is prosecuted and this data is out there, probably it might affect his credit score, then he's acquitted, it has affected his credit score, it has affected his purchasing power, or any other web-based issue. So this calls for true, and that's why the office is really emphasizing on data. As much as we are automating everything, we have to protect this data. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. We do have a question here from Victor, and it's directed to Dr. Bright. He says, I heard you talk about the cyber threats that are occurring. When I check about the threats in Kenya, it is few, or there are few threats compared to the Western countries. How does the antivirus software collect this data, and does it mean we are safe?
So I have many questions for that person. I don't know where he or she is getting that information from. I don't think there's any antivirus software that can collect just that. And if there are many systems that can collect data to actually visualize and show you where the threats are coming from and what is true or not. So I wouldn't say the threats that are coming to Kenya are few. No. I mean, compared to other places. And then the thing is, as we speak right now, if you just Google live threat maps, Google that right now, anybody, live threat maps, you see so many organizations such as Kaspersky's, Checkpoint, and the likes who are showing you live threat maps. They all have different numbers. So because they have different honeypots to see where the threats are coming from, they have different kind of threat attack maps. So we can't have one. What he's saying right now of what is few or what is not, I can't quantify that.
Okay. And another question from Ahmed. He asks, what is the threat level for Kenya? Is it low, moderate, high compared to the rest of the world?
Again, I will ask the question to him. What is the rest of the world? To quantify a cyber threat is not an easy thing to actually just put out there. So we need to be able to have statistics and say, compared to which countries? Are we looking at Guam? If you look at a country like Guam, what is their internet penetration level even? Are we looking at that against Ghana? So we need a lot of, they have to be side by side. We can't tell exactly what are we compared to the other rest of the world. Everybody's dealing with their own cyber threats in a different way.
Okay. I think we have come to the end of our discussion. Thank you very much, everyone who has joined. Thank you to our panelists for creating the time to join us and also answer our questions. I would just like to give our panelists a few minutes to give us their parting shots before we exit. We can start with Dr. Bright.
Yeah, so mine is to say thank you to AGA Africa and my fellow panelists and for you to hosting this. I believe that we are all susceptible to cyber attacks, and we have to come together to be able to share knowledge and information to be able to actually fight it and come to some sort of an acceptable level. So cyber attacks will forever be there. We are never going to stop getting them. We better be able to be ready to be able to tackle them one way or the other. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Duncan?
My appreciation goes to AG for hosting this. It's a very good topic. And due to the changing nature of cyber issues, it's something which requires constant engagement. And thank you for this. And I look forward in you having more and more of these engagements. They're really critical in ensuring that knowledge is spread wide and across the country. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much. I would also like to thank AGA Africa for giving us this opportunity. They do a lot of good work in terms of training different groups of people around Africa and creating awareness about cybersecurity. Remember, you can follow AGA Africa on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram at AGA_Africa. That's AGA_Africa. On the chat, there is a link where you can click and give us your feedback. We'll also post it as a tweet so that you're able to click and give us your feedback. Let us know whether you want more discussions on cybersecurity and different other topics, and we'll be able to organize those. Thank you very much, guys, for joining. Have a wonderful evening. See you next time.
See you. Thank you so much.